Word.
All right, Trump puts a timeline on leaving Iran. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. The U.S. military breaking out the bunker busters overnight. The video is just wild, decimating a weapons depot in Isfahan, Iran. The explosions are absolutely enormous. That is taken from miles away. Some speculate in that video we're again watching the decimation of Isfahan's nuclear facility, which was hit last summer and was likely being rebuilt. We're not exactly sure what was hit. We just know it was a weapons depot of some kind. Trump posting this clip online with very few specifics tonight. Not long after that, though, we can say that Iran's president indicated that he'd like to see this war end. In a call with the European Council, saying Iran possesses the necessary will to end this conflict, provided that essential conditions are met, wanting guarantees against future aggression. So Iran again trying to capitulate in its own way while probably not giving up very much. That probably is not going to fly. Trump telling the New York Post we won't be in Iran much longer, that we just need to obliterate a little more of Iran's offenses. Here was the president about an hour ago giving a 2 to 3 week timeline before pulling out.
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon. I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3. We're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities.
The U.S. will be gone or done with the war in 2
I
or 3
think with
weeks?
2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks, if it is.
We'll leave. I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that. It doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them.
Okay, so there's kind of where his head's at right now. What to make of that is hard to tell. We're going to get into that here in a minute. But Trump again flexing the decimation of Iran, the damage that they have done to the country, saying it could be 15, 20 years before they can rebuild what has been done, saying regime change was not an original goal of this, but became one during the operation. He says what's happening right now is the regime change. They're just killing off everybody that won't deal with them, that won't give them what they want, which is a full capitulation. Hegseth saying today the relentless attacks are causing desertions within Iran's ranks.
The latest intel is clear out of CENTCOM. Our strikes are damaging the morale of the Iranian military, leading to widespread desertions, key personnel shortages, and causing frustrations amongst senior leaders.
So that's interesting. The big question, though, tonight is where exactly are we going from here? And there's just really no way to know. Trump refuses to give away any piece of the game. You've noticed that by now. Every time he reveals something, we have no clue what to really make of it. The Wall Street Journal reporting that Trump has been telling aides he might leave really soon without even opening the Strait of Hormuz and just leaving that to somebody else to deal with. But a Daily Mail reporter tweeting out just a little bit ago that sources tell him that Trump is taking Karg Island. Are we finishing the job? Are we leaving tomorrow? Nobody knows. Because if reporters knew this, Iran would also know. So he's going to say everything. It's going to be a shotgun blast of information, some of it meant to be disinformation. The truth, what's not true, we have no idea. So we watch and we wait. Marco Rubio releasing this video just about 2 hours ago, again reinforcing why this mission was launched as they get a lot of criticism. A message to those critics makes a lot of sense. Take a listen.
We were on the verge of an Iran that had so many missiles and so many drones that no one could do anything about their nuclear weapons program in the future. That was an intolerable risk. Under no circumstances can a country run by radical Shia clerics with an apocalyptic vision of the future ever possess nuclear weapons. And under no circumstances can they be allowed to hide and protect that program and their ambitions behind a shield of missiles and drones that no one can do anything about. This was our last best chance to eliminate that conventional threat, that conventional shield that they were trying to build. And the president made the right decision to wipe it out now.
Nuclear program, ballistic shield around it. That's exactly what they were doing. It makes perfect sense when you think about it, when you see what data we have from inside Iran, what we know. That's the reality we face. And there are a lot of soft countries in Europe that helped us get into this mess, helped us get to this point. with their support for Obama's Iran nuclear deal. Remember how they cheerled for that? And today, Trump is hammering those European allies, France, UK, others who've refused to help to decimate an Iranian regime that possessed ballistic missiles that were capable of hitting Europe, we now know. They won't even help to protect themselves. Our allies refusing to help us wrangle a monster that they willingly fed for a very long time. Trump telling the Euros sweating oil and the Strait of Hormuz, go in. Take the strait yourselves if you're so worried about it, after the United States walks away from Iran, telling our European allies, learn to fight for yourselves. You abandon us, don't expect our help. The president says the strait doesn't matter to the U.S. as we have enough oil to sustain ourselves, which is true and would be more true if the U.S. were to leave the international marketplace and just stop selling and buying oil on the national stage and instead just take what we have and sustain ourselves, which would be an option. But there's no indication that is going to happen. That would be very complicated. But it is good to occasionally point out that the United States is technically energy independent. We don't behave in such a manner right now. The Strait of Hormuz still matters to the United States, to the price of energy, to our markets. But it doesn't have to. You could change that if you so desired. It'd be messy, but you could. Hexet this morning updating on Hormuz and also knocking the UK and the Europeans for weaseling out of this very important moment.
On the Strait of Hormuz, there are many more vessels flowing through today than there were, as the president has arranged. The president's been clear to Iran, open it for business, or we have options, and we certainly do. There are countries around the world who ought to be prepared to step up on this critical waterway as well. It's not just the United States Navy. Last time I checked, there was supposed to be a big, bad Royal Navy. This is an international waterway that we use less than most, in fact, dramatically less than most. So the world ought to pay attention and be prepared to stand up. President Trump's been willing to do the heavy lifting on behalf of the free world to address this threat of Iran. It's not just our problem set going forward.
All right, and with that, we bring in Brent Sadler, a Navy veteran, a maritime expert. Good to have you back on. It's so hard to figure out where we're going, Brent, because, Trump makes these statements and he sends out every message you can possibly imagine. What do you make of that and the way they're trying to handle this thing from the communication side?
Well, I mean, I would think and I would hope that most smart people following President Trump from his first term through his years out of government, now back in, that sometimes what he says is intended to have an effect or reaction. And that's, I think, most important. And what I focus more on in these words and these statements, what's the impact in Tehran and Beijing and Moscow? And it's confusion, and it's, now they have more things to worry about because they can't rule anything out, because when they do, Trump surprises them with that. So in most respects, I'd say these statements have the desired impact in the target audience, and that's our enemies, to make them have to worry about a lot more things, maybe get them closer to making a deal.
Yeah. Do you think this ends in a deal? I mean, do you think it actually goes that route?
I think it does. It's just a matter of who's on the other side of the table in Tehran. Preferably, it's a new regime that lives with peace with their neighbors in Israel and doesn't threaten American lives and interest. Yeah. But it could be some kind of weird morph of, I guess, coalition in Iran that at least is someone we can trust to at least meet the minimum needs that we seal a deal with to reopen the Hormuz Strait in the near term.
Well, let's talk. You're a maritime expert. Let's talk about Hormuz for a second. You're well informed on that. Trump has said we're taking it, then says we don't need it. The Europeans should do it themselves. He said the United States doesn't really need the Strait of Hormuz, which again could technically be true if we made some big changes, but isn't right now. What do you think the end result will be about what I think is the most critically important part of this equation, which is make sure your energy can get out of the Persian Gulf?
Well, I'd also add the president also said he was honored to safeguard Chinese oil going through that strait as well. To anyone that follows, the relations are somewhat chilly between our two countries. I think that was also, I think there's value in having our Navy nearby, a critical supply route for China, our adversary in Beijing. But as far as getting the energy through there, it's no surprise the Europeans do rely on the energy there, but they're not the biggest of our treaty allies that rely on the energy coming out. That's Japan, right, South Korea, the Philippines, Australia. It's our Asian allies where the vast majority of the non-Chinese oil goes to. And it's actually a fraction. It's like maybe a third of what goes out of there goes to those treaty allies.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where Japan, South Korea, and these other allies need to step up. And there's indications that think that they will.
But before I let you go, boots on the ground is the big question that we all have. What do you think the chances are that they make that move?
Boots on the ground for an invasion, clearly not in the cards, just judging by the military preparations. Boots on the ground inside, say like Karg Island or down in Bandar Abbas, the other major port and naval facilities at the entrance of Hormuz, also unnecessary, but realm of possible with the forces. The Marines on ships and going and doing, episodic insertions to go take out threats to shipping, or putting in the 82nd Airborne and Army troops to bolster up facilities in the region. I think that's very likely.
Very likely, but not a full invasion of the country. You don't see that at this point. Okay, Brent Sadler, thanks for the information. Good to see you. Thanks.
Have a good night.
All right. All right, Dinesh D'Souza is a filmmaker and author, and he is with us tonight, and it's good to have you back on. You're a supporter of the operation in Iran, but you say that a ground invasion is too much. You've posted that we've reached the juncture in this conflict where U.S. and Israeli interests diverge. Explain your position here.
Well, there are two ways to think about the end point of this operation. The first is we want regime change, we want the mullahs out, we want a new government in Iran, and I support all those things. I would like to see that end goal. But it seems to me that this operation was sold to the American people on a more modest goal, and that is debilitate the Iranian military facilities, wipe out their Navy and Air Force, open up the Strait of Hormuz, incapacitate their nuclear facilities, and that's it. And I think we have largely done that. So I'm not suggesting we need to leave tomorrow. I'm simply saying that as long as we've achieved the second goal, which is the goal that was transmitted to the American people, it seems to me that to commit ground troops to go all the way. See, the Iranians they've been setting up systems of control in their own society for 50 years. Right. If we want to try to transform that regime, well, they control every school. They control every local council. And so this is where you need boots on the ground. You need door to door. And we did that in Iraq. We did that in Afghanistan, but we got caught up in the quagmire. And so it seems to me the lesson of Iraq and Afghanistan is to be wary of putting boots on the ground in that way.
What do you say to the, I mean, you know that he'll never hear the end of it. If he goes in there and does this operation and leaves and lets this regime start to build back up, and then in a few months we're going to hear about them having, uranium again, and we're going to hear about this, the rebuilding of this, and it's going to be a political disaster because they're going to say, what the hell did you start this for if you couldn't finish it?
Well, you can do a certain level of pulverization where that can't happen. And remember that if we think about the end of the Cold War, what happened in the final stretch was that the people in those countries took a hold of their own countries. You remember in Poland and Romania, Czechoslovakia, the people, they're like, we'll pull down the Berlin Wall. We'll go get Ceausescu and yank him out of his apartment. We'll establish our own countries and take over from here. I think at some point we need the Iranian people to do that. We can't do it entirely for them. People have to fight for their own freedom. And so what the United States and Israel are doing is creating that kind of opening or opportunity for them to do that. Now, Israel might come to the view that, hey, listen, Iran was behind October 7th. We want to see a change in regime. We have every right to strike back. We want to go all the way. And that's what I mean, where sometimes allies, they can have common interests, but at some point their interests do diverge. And then one guy says to the next guy, hey, listen, I wish you well, more power to you. If you want to go all the way, I'm not going to stop you. Go for it. I wish you well. I wish you success.
The ultimate,
but it's no longer our job.
Right. The ultimate dream, obviously, would be to get the mullahs out and to change this into a somewhat Western-facing country so we don't have to continue to deal with this forever and ever and ever. We've had to deal with this for 50 years. We have videos of Trump's talking about this in the 80s. This has always been an issue. They've always been a threat. They've grown stronger and stronger and stronger. And as you said, they've consolidated their power over the last 47 years. My question is, if we need to secure, somehow force this country to behave, to secure, to not try and hold the world hostage with a nuclear bomb at some point. At what point do the other Gulf Arab states come into play, the ones that are pushing Trump to finish the job? You've got the Saudis pushing so hard, the Saudi Crown Prince pushing so hard to finish the job. When do they take some stake in this? These countries have hundreds of thousands of ground troops. They have a much bigger reason to want a secure Iran that's not a terror state in the future. They need to get involved.
This is an excellent point. I think Iran made a massive blunder in attacking targets in these countries. They've inflamed not only Saudi and UAE and Bahrain, which we might expect, but even Qatar. Even Qatar is against Iran on this. And they're more likely to come to the front if the United States ultimately begins to pull back a little bit. So, yes, I mean, look, I love the Iranian people. I want to see their country free. I'm very confident that what came after the mullahs, I'm not sure if it's going to be a monarchy, a constitutional monarchy, or some sort of maybe even authoritarian system like the other Gulf kingdoms. It's going to be better than what's there now. So would I like to see that result? Absolutely.
Yeah. Dinesh, good to see you, sir. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Coming up here, after a young woman was ruthlessly murdered on a train, you remember the story of Irina here? The liberal mayor of Providence, Rhode Island, removing a nearly completed mural to that young woman, calling it divisive. So what's divisive about it? Because past photos confirm that this deranged man is simply a partisan simp. Look at that. Plus later in News from the Left, some serious projection from old Nancy.
They may try to creep into the technology and create a false count.
Information. Truth. Is power. Is freedom. Is money. Is health. Is Newsmax. Millions watch it. So can you. Newsmax is real news for real people.
Hungry Root is here, and I needed it because my fridge is super empty.
It's so easy to just whip together a quick, healthy meal.
Head to hungryroot.com for healthy groceries and simple recipes. Plus, get free veggies for life.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
Guess what? Experian Boost is even better because now my monthly insurance payments, my streaming payments, my rent payments, even my phone payments can raise my credit scores instantly, free.
More ways to build credit. Download the Experian app.
Mike Hammond here, founder of Signal Relief. Meet Dr. Beth Dupree, breast cancer surgeon for over 35 years.
In my surgical career, I have treated thousands of patients, and finding effective pain relief has always been a priority. Believe me, I was skeptical, but Signal Relief caught my attention because it actually works. Clinical trials show over 85% of participants felt relief within 72 hours, with nearly half noticing a significant difference in just 15 minutes. Just place it near or above wherever you have the pain, whether it's your back, your shoulder, your neck, or your knee. Signal Relief Patch brings proven relief. I recommend it to my patients, family, and friends, and I get to witness and experience their pain relief firsthand, and that brings a smile to my face.
Join the hundreds of thousands who have experienced relief with the Signal Relief Patch, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Trust Dr. Dupree and me. The patch works.
It's still here, but not for long. Artist Ian Gaudreau tells me he's sad it's come to this point, but after calls from Mayor Smiley and other local leaders to remove the mural, it felt like only a matter of time before this happened.
Providence, Rhode Island, public pressure from the leftist mayor forcing the nearly finished mural for slain 23-year-old Irina Zarutska to be taken down. We all remember this video, right? Irina brutally stabbed to death on a Charlotte, North Carolina light rail by a deranged repeat offender that was sitting right behind her. He gets up and just plunges a knife into her neck. Horrifying. In front of all those other people. In a city where it became fashionable to let criminals just roam free was why there was so much outrage. This never should have happened. Charlotte, North Carolina. Up to the north, 500 miles, Providence's gay liberal mayor, Brent Smiley, calling a mural in his city misguided and divisive. Why? Well, because it's a reminder of the horrific policies that he subscribes to. He wants to make your cities terrible and dangerous and liberal and woke. But when it's politically beneficial to his cause, Smiley actually loves divisive political displays. Here he is right here, masked up honoring George Floyd and Black Lives Matter in 2020. He did this several times. He helped push residents in his city to riot in his own city. George Floyd has about 2,700 murals and statues to himself worldwide, a drug-addicted criminal who admitted to using too many drugs before dying after violently resisting arrest. A man who once robbed a pregnant woman at gunpoint by putting the gun to her belly. Nothing divisive about that. Mayor Smiley loves that. He's not divisive, but Irina is. The artist of that mural, Ian Gaudreau, had this to say about it being taken down.
A lot of people voiced their frustrations, and voices were heard, and the work is coming down as a reaction to that. And I want everybody to know that my intentions with the mural was to lower the temperature. All of this political vitriol being kicked up has removed Irina's humanity from her story.
How dangerous is that? That the politics have turned so you can't even honor a woman that was killed. Rhode Island Republican State Senator Jessica De La Cruz joins us now. Mark Robinson is a former lieutenant governor of North Carolina, where Irina was killed, and good to have you both here. Jessica, I want to start with you. Your reaction to what is happening in your city.
It's disheartening. It's outrageous. I feel it's obviously an overreach, intimidating a business owner to take down a mural. You know, what I find so ironic is that just a few days prior, the city had a No Kings protest. And I had mentioned that it was very much acting like a king, Mayor Smiley, and almost as an edict. This mural needs to come down. It's an intimidation of this business owner and the muralist, and I'm very disappointed with the mayor.
It's beyond disappointing, Mark, and you're from North Carolina, where in Charlotte the ridiculous assault that they've had on law and order and on the justice system led to this death. What's your reaction?
You know, when I first heard this, it just made perfect sense to me, because this is brought to you by the party that loves diversity until diversity includes the people that they despise. And then all of a sudden they're against diversity. I'd also like to point out the fact that in Charlotte, Charlotte is in Mecklenburg County, and just recently the sheriff of Mecklenburg County admitted under oath that he does not know what the three branches of government are or which branch he serves under. So it's just indicative of this party to disregard law and order, disregard law-abiding citizens, and do absolutely ridiculous things when they get control. And this is just another terrible example of this. An innocent 23-year-old woman who was viciously stabbed, a woman from a war-torn country, viciously stabbed, just riding the train, and for some reason they think of her as divisive. It's not her that's divisive; it's their policies that are divisive,
right,
that are destroying our cities.
And Jessica, there was no racial reaction to this. I mean, here's what I think is happening: they're pretending that you can't memorialize this young woman because a black man killed her, and that there's some racial component to that that's being explicitly brought up here in a negative manner. Nobody is saying that. What we're saying is that he was a criminal. He was a criminal that nobody in that city wanted to put in jail because they're tap dancing around the issue of race. And an obvious problem that we have, which is that we have a lot of inner city black crime. And this was a black criminal in an inner city. That's not the point, though. The point of it is that you got to throw people in jail. And the criticism is of people with the ideology of the mayor. It's not about race here. It's about their ideology let this happen, and they don't want to hear it from us. They don't want a mural up on the side of a bar that reminds people that the idiots that are in charge of your city are allowing this to happen all day long because they're so terrified of being viewed as racially insensitive.
Well, and and I would add that it's not a vulgar mural. It's not explicit in any way. It's simply a face. It's simply a portrait of a young woman that lost her life to policies by Democrats allowing individuals to get off on sentences, lesser sentences, or not even being fully, charged for their crimes. And so, what is the problem? As you said, this is not a controversial issue. This is just memorializing the life of a young woman who I would also point out, Democrats will talk a lot about Ukraine. We need to support Ukraine. But when a Ukrainian immigrant comes to the United States, is murdered senselessly for no reason at all, God forbid, we honor a Ukrainian at that point.
And Mark, just to finish it off, they're terrified of hearing about their own policies. They don't want to hear it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's the main reason they want the mural down. They want the mural down because people will look at that face and they'll ask who it is. And when they hear the story, they'll realize that the policies that these people are pushing are not only destroying cities, but they're destroying lives.
It's a living reminder on the side of a building that they don't like. Good to have you both on. Jessica De La Cruz and Mark Robinson, good to have you guys. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. Chicago Bulls cutting a Christian player after he criticized the Rainbow Mafia. Wait till you hear this up next.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.
Doctor's Preferred Liver Defense is doctor developed to support your natural detox function with clinically validated, triple tested key ingredients to energize and renew your liver. Find Liver Defense in the supplement aisle at Walmart. Doctor's Preferred. Better science, better results.
So, here is a before of my stomach before Sono Bello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sono Bello.
I wanted the results of the tummy tuck, but not the downtime.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform.
Do you want that flat stomach? You go get that flat stomach.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today. Call or go to sonobello.com right now.
Time to sell the car. All right. Whoa. Okay. Mileage. Check. Accident-free, baby. Sold.
Sell your car today on Carvana.
Benjamin Franklin.
Reverend Whitfield.
A match made in heaven.
Or just a deal made in a print shop.
Two voices.
My friends, you want to be free.
One idea.
The Constitution needs to speak to the heart of these people.
A new nation.
You are the lightning bolt, George. I am just the lightning rod. And who is the source, Ben?
A Great Awakening. Rated PG-13. In theaters Friday.
What's gold is new again. Pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with Preserve Gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
He's breathing. Okay.
Again?
Children account for 75% of choking deaths.
That's why I recommend everyone have a life vac in your home, car, or business.
The life vac is simple to use. Just place, push, and pull.
Its suction removes an obstruction out of the airway quickly, saving a life.
If you use your life vac for an emergency, we'll replace it for free. Order now.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
They proclaim Pride Month and the NBA to celebrate unrighteousness. God did not make a man to be with a man. They said my conduct is detrimental to the team, right? Why didn't they just say we don't agree with his stance on LGBTQ?
It's an interesting story here. Christian NBA player Jaden Ivey released by the Chicago Bulls after speaking out against Pride Month and the LGBTQ agenda. Every year during Pride Month, NBA teams do the corporate dance that they have to do. It looks so ridiculous every year. Many find it to be a humiliation ritual inside the league. They won't ever say that out loud, but we know how they feel. The Chicago Bulls saying that Ivey was let go due to conduct detrimental to the team. Jaden Ivey's just 24 years old, drafted by the Detroit Pistons, #5 overall. Promising career, tens of millions of future dollars. Now in trouble. He's in timeout. Let's see if he can get out of it because he didn't bow to the Rainbow Mob. So now that you see what you can't do in the NBA, we're going to now remind you of what you can get away with. Ja Morant, I think is how you say the name, of the Memphis Grizzlies. Here is his past off the court.
I got money. That's it. Man, you got me tripping.
He likes to play with guns and videotape himself doing so. Not the best idea. For those two videos, the league briefly suspended him, fined him $75,000, which is effectively a parking ticket for people like you and I. Kevin Porter Jr. currently plays for the Milwaukee Bucks. 2020, he was arrested after crashing his car, police finding a loaded gun. Weed in the car. In 2023, arrested in New York for felony assault and strangulation of a woman, his WNBA player girlfriend. Strangulation. Reporting described her as sustaining a fractured neck vertebrae and a deep cut above her eye, which required stitches. He was pulled for 1 season. He's back. Charlotte Hornet forward Miles Bridges was arrested 2022, felony domestic violence charges, 1 count of causing harm to a parent of a child, 2 counts of child abuse. Bridges pled no contest, sentenced in November 2022, 3 years probation, no jail time. The NBA suspended him for 30 games. That's it, not even a full season. He's back now. Royce White is a former NBA player running as a Republican for Senate in Minnesota and joins us now. Royce, there's certain things you can do. You can beat the hell out of a woman. You can flash a piece in an Instagram video, probably an illegal weapon, we don't know. But you say something about the Rainbow Mafia, you're in deep trouble, aren't you?
100%. Yeah, and I don't know Jaden Ivey personally. I don't know his personal story. It certainly could be that he's struggling with some other issues, maybe mental health issues. You know, who knows what is going on with him. But this is a much bigger issue than that. I think on 3 levels. The first level is what's the interpretation of free speech in the workplace and as it pertains to the corporate community, which the NBA represents. Secondly, and maybe this is probably the most important one, the double standard from the left. If this guy had come out as gay and been released from the team, surely everybody would have cried discrimination. And there seems to be no safe haven for Christians. And I think the discrimination, the Christian discrimination lawsuits should be flowing like crazy in this country right now. And last but not least, the cultural decay in this country because of these corporate norms is detrimental to this country in a way that I think reaches a level of a national security threat. I really do. I think it's subversive at that level.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I wanted to get your take on this, but I've heard, I know people in the sports world, and I've heard what these players really think about this capitulation to the LGBTQ flag and what they have to do every year for this? What do you believe it's like on the inside in these teams? What do they actually think about what they're put through?
Well, I think that it's a foregone conclusion that the entire professional sports world has bent the knee to the LGBTQ ideology. And the excuse, the justification, just like you heard them say, detrimental to the team. The thinking is that the LGBTQ concession from the NBA and the rest of the corporate community is so lucrative or has so many economic and financial implications that to go against it is economically detrimental. And it's not only a concession to the LGBTQ, which is pretty much a satanic, ideology. Let's just throw it out there.
What it's turned into, for sure. Yeah, right. This is not gay pride anymore. This is anti-American Marxist nonsense.
Absolutely. This is a color revolution, which is why I say about the national security threat level situation. But also, if you're going to concede that the only moral and ethic standard for your company or this country is what makes you money or what's profitable versus not, the left has no leg to stand on as being a movement of the people, especially the working class, and certainly not the poor.
Well said. Well said. I just wonder how hard those players snicker when they have to go through this in the locker room, because it's so ridiculous, as you and I know. And these are competitive men. They've worked hard to get to that point. These are not woke liberals in the NBA.
And Rob, another dangerous thing for this country and our culture and a subversive ideology is to take the strongest young men amongst us and humiliate them and castrate them.
I could not agree more with that statement. Royce White, good to see you. Thank you. All right, about 90 minutes ago, Trump made a big move on mail-in ballots. Kari Lake up next.
Big media will never stop their antics, their bias, their ugly insinuations, their nasty attacks. Well, they may never stop, but I will never stop exposing them.
250 years, and our flag still stands. It's more than fabric. It's every sacrifice ever made for this country.
When I see the flag, I see my brothers and sisters who never came home.
I see unity, pride, freedom. That's why it matters that our flag is made right here in America. Because when it's made here, it means something.
Fly a flag made to honor 250 years of America. Fly allegiance.
I am a big believer in super beta prostate. You'll notice less urges to urinate, and you won't be getting up at night for so many bathroom trips. I wouldn't say it if I didn't truly believe it.
When you're out in the wild, you either have bear skin or you have no skin.
You see, unlike regular old hoodies, the bearskin hoodie is actually built for the outdoors, and it can stand up to the toughest conditions. Some folks come out here, they've spent thousands on gear that looks great on Instagram, but in the wild, you don't actually need the extra attention.
Seriously? No Wi-Fi? So make sure you're prepared to face Mother Nature with the bearskin hoodie.
You can get 60% off the bearskin hoodie today when you go to stopawfulhoodies.com.
Stopawfulhoodies.com.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. Most investors believe their IRA, 401k, and bank accounts are reliable and safe. But what if our economy becomes so dire that you're restricted from accessing your own money? The fact is that should your bank be in trouble for holding bad loans, the burden could fall on you to help bail them out. Even more concerning is that U.S. financial regulations allow banks to impose withdrawal limits on your hard-earned savings. But there's something you can do about it. Our team at Swiss America has a report called The Secret War on Cash. Learn how to protect yourself with assets that can remain outside the control of banks and other financial institutions. For over 40 years, Swiss America has been one of the most trusted metal firms in the country. So don't wait. Call or text the number on your screen today for financial peace of mind in these uncertain times.
This is Fubo. It's your way to watch ESPN and other top sports networks. Plus, get coverage of your local teams all year long. Start watching at FuboTV.com.
I'm putting with Abe Lincoln's cane right now.
These are 40-something years old.
Yeah. There we go. Oh, come on!
I really believe that God put us on a course to take care of all these catastrophic needs of service members, Gold Star widows.
It's because of all of them that we get to do what we do.
Let's do good together.
Let's do it.
People got to give every time I miss.
You got to give $11.
There we go. You're the man. Donate $11 a month at T2T.org.
We're all looking for the secret to living a long, healthy life. And you know what we discovered?
Just add water.
With our Aquasana filter, every glass is cleaner, healthier, and tastes great too.
Ready for another?
I'm gonna get you. Come on.
Visit aquasana.com today.
All right, late this evening, the president signing an executive order cracking down on mail-in voting less than 7 months ahead of the midterms. Take a look.
It's about voter integrity. We want to have honest voting in our country, because if you don't have honest voting, you can't have really a nation, if you want to know the truth.
Executive order requiring Homeland Security to work with the Social Security Administration to compile a list of verified U.S. citizens in every state who are eligible to vote. Why we haven't done this in all these years, I have no idea why. It would probably take a computer about 10 minutes to do this. And mandate absentee ballots only be sent to those on each state's approved list. Unique envelopes and barcodes also included to ensure security and tracking. Trump threatening to pull funding from states who do not provide their voter list at least 60 days prior to this next federal election. Democrats are losing their minds already. Schumer saying, see you in court, you will lose. Gavin Newsom and Democrat election officials in Oregon and Arizona already vowing to sue. Kari Lake knows a thing or two about shady election practices, and she joins us now. What's your reaction? This is a big move by the president. Your reaction to it?
I wish I could do a backflip, but I'm not flexible enough for that. I just literally, in the last couple of minutes, texted the president telling him thank you for signing this. This may be the most important executive order he's ever signed. The people of this country need some relief from the corrupt people running our elections. And yes, this is so easy. You're right. It's real simple to secure elections and make them honest. Unfortunately, a lot of the fraudsters who are sitting in public office did not earn their way there by the votes of real Americans. They got into public office by phony mail-in ballots. And this is just a way to weed out the phony ones. I think it's a brilliant move. It's a necessary move to save our republic.
I mean, what have we seen? We've seen that our rolls are just loaded with, nonsense. So many, ridiculous voters that are dead, voters that are what? I mean, the rolls are terrible. They need to be, they're not cleaned out, non-existent voters. You also, at the same time, then you make a decision. Let's send ballots all over Hell's Half Acre when you have have these terrible rolls, so they're just going to be mailed out everywhere. And then you see videos of people just stuffing ballots into boxes. You see harvesters. You put all those together, we know what's going on.
It's an really easy way for fraud. They connect a phony mail-in ballot to a phony line and a voter roll, and voila, they've got a vote, which is not a real vote. So we're going to get rid of that with this executive order, and I applaud the president. I've been the victim of this. I've won on election night only to be told by the press, oh, don't celebrate, we're still counting mail-in ballots. And then for the next 12, 13, 14 days, they count ballots until they get the result they want, which is somebody who didn't win, pushed into office. I've fought it in court. I've said, prove that these are real people, prove that these are real ballots, prove that these are real signatures. They couldn't do it. And we cannot continue to have the people in office who weren't duly elected. I think this will really change the course of history in a good way and restore faith for people who've lost faith in our elections.
And but in the meantime, they're going to fight like hell legally to try and prevent this from happening. So it'll be curious to see where these district judges take this and where these ridiculous judges. And I have one more story about these ridiculous district judges coming from Trump's ballroom, which was the other big story today. Lawsuit brought by the National Trust for Historic Preservation, arguing the construction that we're seeing on the whole east wing of the White House for this new ballroom requires congressional authorization before moving forward. That was the suit. U.S. District Judge Richard Leon has now ordered a halt to construction. That is not a new picture. President Trump reacting on Truth Social, calling the National Trust for Historic Preservation a radical left group of lunatics, question why they don't sue Newsom's California Railroad to nowhere or the Federal Reserve building renovation as well. You knew at some point they were going to come for this renovation. I'm surprised it took this long.
It's just amazing to watch these district court judges stopping President Trump at every move. They tried to say that him defunding PBS and NPR was an illegal move. They've basically taken all of the reforms that I made at our agency and said, no, we're throwing them out. They did it with Bobby Kennedy. When are we going to say enough is enough with these corrupt judges? The president's fed up. The American people are fed up watching these D.C. district court judges and frankly, district court judges around the country try to act like they were elected to run the executive branch. Something's got to give. It's going to start with securing our elections. That's where it all starts, and that was a huge move the president made today.
It's and as you said, these judges, you think, and it's like, where were these people when our southern border and the sovereignty of this country was decimated? And we sat there every day watching on television as thousands of people just walked into our country. Where the hell were the judges in a moment like that? A real moment, a real serious moment. The integrity of the country had collapsed. Where were the judges? But when Trump wants to build a frickin' ballroom that everybody has wanted for a very long time so they can actually hold events and not have to put a tent on the lawn, this is when they light up.
I think people think the White House is actually huge, and once you've been in there, you realize it's not that big. And there are very important events that are held there that need a bigger space. It's ridiculous to put dignitaries from other countries and people into tents on the White House lawn. The president's solving that problem. He knows how to solve all the problems. Thank God we have him sitting in the White House.
Kari Lake, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
The most visible people to ever walk the planet need a day of visibility, and that is today. Next.
And across the country, we are seeing growing attacks on transgender people's rights, their safety and dignity.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Our family started Cane Brew with a dream and a lot of hard work. Now we're thriving, growing, and hiring. Artificial intelligence has made all the difference for our business. We're a case study for how AI is strengthening American manufacturing. Washington needs to help AI flourish. It's vital to our economic security. We cannot let China dominate these technologies. America must innovate and win. Let's protect our competitive edge.
I tried everything for my stubborn dandruff, and then I found Nizoral. It works differently to get to the root cause of dandruff. Its active ingredient is 10 times more effective at fighting fungus, the primary cause of dandruff. Say goodbye to stubborn dandruff with Nizoral. Now in refreshing peppermint and tea tree scent.
Stay tuned to get this 5-piece bakeware set, a $60 value, absolutely free. Tired of that pan that always sticks? It's so scratched and worn, you can't cook in it.
Hi, Chef Daniel Green here with my new hammered pans from Gotham Steel. This complete 9-piece set is guaranteed to beautify your kitchen like never before.
Gosh, what I love most about this design is this hammered copper look. It would just look so fantastic hanging in my kitchen.
Wow, this is a beautiful pan. It looks great. Look at those eggs dancing around in there. I tell you, I'm sold. Where do I get these? I love them.
Hammered pans are ultra non-stick. Nothing sticks. Even gooey mac and cheese slips out with ease. And look, these sticky candies melted with a torch are no match for hammered pans. Plus, they're super durable, so use metal beaters straight in the pan for a gourmet souffle that slips out and a pan that looks just like new. They're even oven safe up to 500 degrees. So bake homemade chicken pot pie, cheesy lasagna, or this whole chicken dinner. Any recipe looks great in these pans. From steak flambe to delicious desserts and delicate fish, nothing sticks. Plus, the entire set is dishwasher safe and PFOA free.
Similar sets are over $1,000, but you won't pay that. Not $500 or even $300. Get the full 9-piece Gotham Steel hammered set for just 5 payments of $49.99, and we'll even ship it to you free. But order now and we'll drop 1 payment. That's just 4 payments of $49.99, and we'll even guarantee it for a full 10 years. Plus, we'll include this free steamer and strainer, and our 5-piece bakeware set with every pan you'll ever need to make delicious breads, cakes, and desserts. Together, these are an $80 value, yours 100% free. That's a huge 15-piece set with free shipping. Call or click now.
To order, call 1-800-204-6861 or go to buyhammered.com. That's 1-800-204-6861, or you can order online at buyhammered.com.
Forget the warm-up.
DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone. Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
How old are you?
11.
To a hacker, your tax return isn't just paperwork, it's a gold mine. Your social security number and bank data are their biggest payday of the year. Old antivirus software can't keep up. You need PCmatic. Our default deny technology blocks every single threat that hasn't been pre-approved. If we don't know it, we block it. Secure your return right now. Buy PCmatic antivirus and we will give you PCmatic VPN for free. American-made security for homes, businesses, and government agencies. Visit PCmatic.com.
Hungry Root is here, and I needed it because my fridge is super empty.
It's so easy to just whip together a quick, healthy meal.
Head to hungryroot.com for healthy groceries and simple recipes. Plus, get free veggies for life.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Nancy Pelosi has a theory about our upcoming elections.
With this president and these Republicans who have no commitment to the rule of law and doing things the appropriate way, we have to be on guard as to what they may try to do to the technology. They may try to creep into the technology and create a false count.
Remember when talking like this was a threat to democracy? Just even insinuating anything could be wrong with an election potentially was a threat to democracy. And how much is old Nancy projecting here? A message from the party of housing project vote harvesting, rampant mail-in, and left-wing NGO ballot box stuffing. And they're worried about the integrity of the next election. The people that refuse to, I mean, they will fight to the death to prevent us from what? Asking for ID and citizenship in elections? Even though every other first world country does that, they will fight to the death to prevent that. And she's worried about the integrity of the next election. Old Nancy. Next up, a look at the kind of content ABC is feeding housewives in this country every day. Take a listen.
I think it's time for men to see what women have always known, which is that men hate us. You know, and it's not just young men. You know, I think there's a lot of ways that, it's more insidious when men get older and still hate women in different ways, you know, whether it's doctors and psychiatrists who are finding new ways to dismiss our symptoms, to call us crazy. Every time I go in to just talk about my feelings, I got diagnosed with ADD and OCD, and I don't have either. You're boring and I'm busy.
Let's bring on a chick that needs 30 pills to survive every day to talk about men on The View. That's a great idea. And by the way, men don't hate all women. They all hate you, anyone that's met you, because you're just a really, really obnoxious person. This is what The View is now, though. I mean, think about what this show has become, what it started as versus what it's become. It's a terrible show. And again, ABC. This is federally regulated broadcast networks. This is the crap they put on television now. Next up, props to CNN with an interesting interview with Sandro Castro, the grandson of Cuba's late dictator, Fidel Castro. CNN going into Havana. Very interesting and incredible moment when the young Castro says that the people of Cuba would now certainly prefer capitalism over the last 70 years of communism.
We actually would welcome, he says, speaking for himself, a deal with Donald Trump. What would your grandfather, Fidel Castro, say that you're more capitalist than communist?
My grandfather was a person who had his principles like everyone else, but he also respected others' opinions. There are many people in Cuba that think in a capitalistic way. There are many people here who want to have capitalism with sovereignty.
Props for admitting that the people of Cuba want capitalism because nobody else in that regime will. He's a little off on Grandpa, though. Grandpa killed people if they didn't agree with him ideologically. That's kind of how this all got started. And finally, the most visible people to ever walk the planet needed a day of visibility, and today was that day. It's International Transgender Day of Visibility, so you can see them all over the world if you look hard enough. Activist Rachel Crandall Crocker, a man, licensed male psychotherapist, dressed as a woman, founder of Transgender Michigan, is the founder and organizer of the Holy Day to Spread Trans Joy. Yes, this person is a psychotherapist. Not sure I would be calling him first. Democrats love this stuff, of course, Transgender Visibility Day, including our Islamist, pro-trans, communist Mayor Mamdani. Love to see him take some of this nonsense with him to a Islamic country, by the way. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, everybody pandering to the LGBTQ movement's most elite group of victims, the trans people.
Happy Trans Day of visibility to the trans community in Seattle and across the country.
For too many trans people, we still see discrimination and policies that threaten their safety and dignity.
And across the country, we are seeing growing attacks on transgender people's rights, their safety and dignity.
And I will always, always stand with you.
And I am truly proud to stand with you now and forever, our trans community.
Isn't that sweet? Gotta be nice. And who can forget just 2 years ago, of course, former President Joe Biden proclaiming that Easter Sunday was also going to be Transgender Day of Visibility. Yes, they put it on Easter a couple of years ago. And then they put a topless dude with plastic boobs on the White House lawn in a picture that we will never forget. All right, if you're going to take a shot at Trump, you better not miss. Up next.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
I still love to surf, snowboard, and of course skate. So I take Cunol Magnesium to support my muscle and bone health. Cunol's high absorption magnesium glycinate helps me get the full benefits of magnesium. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Mike Hammond here, founder of Signal Relief. Meet Dr. Beth Dupree, breast cancer surgeon for over 35 years.
In my surgical career, I have treated thousands of patients, and finding effective pain relief has always been a priority. Believe me, I was skeptical, but Signal Relief caught my attention because it actually works. Clinical trials show over 85% of participants felt relief within 72 hours, with nearly half noticing a significant difference in just 15 minutes. Just place it near or above wherever you have the pain, whether it's your back, your shoulder, your neck, or your knee. Signal Relief Patch brings proven relief. I recommend it to my patients, family, and friends, and I get to witness and experience their pain relief firsthand, and that brings a smile to my face.
Join the hundreds of thousands who have experienced relief with the Signal Relief Patch, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Trust Dr. Dupree and me. The patch works.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix Nail Gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
Now that I'm in my 50s, I want to stay strong. That's why I take Strong Cell, a NAD supplement that boosts my natural energy and sharpens my focus.
I wanted to have more energy and get rid of the aches and pains. When I first started taking it, I didn't notice a change right away. After Strong Cell, everything improved.
NAD levels drop with age. Strong Cell replenishes them, recharging your health.
I could move again. I could walk without hurting.
Healthier cells mean a healthier you.
Save 20% now at strongcell.com.
Little breaking news. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, the president will address the nation on the war in Iran. Make sure you watch out for that tomorrow night, 9 p.m. And finally, before we let you go, Eric Swalwell is panicking, and we love to see it, threatening to sue the FBI director after reports he's working to unredact files tied to Swalwell's past interactions with his ex-girlfriend, Fang Fang, the Chinese spy. Attorneys for Swalwell, a frontrunner for governor in California, issuing the cease and desist, urging the FBI to halt any release of the materials. Attorney releasing that the documents would violate several laws as it would amount to targeting Swalwell for his outspoken views about President Trump. Oh, so now they're worried about targeting people for political reasons, like Swalwell did, like this woman did. The manatee, Bill Pulte, going after Big Tish as well. The message here, Rob Finnerty, if you're going to swing at Trump, don't miss, because this is what happens.
Did you say manatee?
Did I?
They're so friendly, those creatures down there in Florida.
The sea cow.
Yes, the sea cow. They don't like the cold water, but they are very friendly.
You're going to get me in trouble?
No. Good to see you, Rob. We'll do it again tomorrow night. Finnerty starts right now.